Hi, I'm James Ward, a technical evangelist for Flex at Adobe. So I was sitting here with John Rose. He's one of the developers who's really been putting a lot of new and great stuff into the open source FlexMonkey automated testing tool, and he was showing me some new features that I think are pretty awesome. And what FlexMonkey is all about is it makes it really easy to test your applications. This is something that developers do whether or not they know it. They will click through their application and then verify that something is the way that they'd expect it to be. And what FlexMonkey allows you to do is automate that process so that you as the developer don't have to keep clicking through the application and verifying things. And so I wanted to give you a quick walkthrough of the latest FlexMonkey stuff, which is some new and exciting things. And so you can see how you get started using FlexMonkey. So I'm going to jump in here to Flash Builder. And I'm just going to create a new project that we'll just use as a project to test with FlexMonkey. So I'm going to call this AFM test. And I can choose either a web application or a desktop application. In this case, I'll use a desktop application. And then I'm just going to write a few lines of code and then create the FlexMonkey test to test that code. So first, we'll have a declaration here. This will be a remote object. Give it an ID of RO. Set the destination to census, and then set the endpoint to my server, www.jamesward.com/census2tests/message broker/AMF. So it just allows to get some data over AMF, my server. And now I'm going to set the layout here to the vertical layout. And now I'm going to add a couple things here. First is the data grid, which is just going to display my data. So I'm going to, in order to display the data, I'm going to add a data provider, set the data provider to RO, and then the operation that I'm calling, which is get elements, and then the last result from calling that operation. And then I'll set the width to 100% and the height to 100%. And now we need some way to actually make the request to the server. So let's add in a button and set the label to get data. And set the click event handler here to RO. So I'm going to call that remote object get elements. And then I'm going to pass it the parameters, start at 0 and get me 500 rows. Okay, so that should be it. Let's save and compile this application. And now let's test it out and run it. So here we go. In this application, we've got our data grid, which currently isn't displaying any data, and the get data button. Let's click that and let's get our data. And there we go. We got our data. That's great. So now let's add in just a little bit more to this application so we have a little bit more to test. Let's add in another button here. And this one is going to be a way to clear out the data so that we can do some testing, easily revert the changes that our testing is making to the application. And then a click handler here is just going to set that data grid's data provider to just an empty array. So in order to do that, let's give the data grid an ID so we can reference it. So we'll just call it DG. So now we're going to call DG.dataProvider equals, and let's just make this a new array collection. Okay. So now let's give this a try. We'll save and recompile that and give this one a try here. So now we've got our application running again, and we've got two buttons, get data, we get the data, there we go, and then we can clear the data. So that all looks good. And so what we can do is now let's say we want to have an automated test that allows us to verify that when we first call get data that we get 7 columns back. And then when we clear the data that maybe let's say our data grid's data provider's length is 0. So let's go open up FlexMonkey. And we're going to create those tests, those automated tests. So when we first open FlexMonkey, it's asking us to set things up. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the project directory. And so my project here is in my C, and then in workspace, and then it's this AFM test. And then I'm just going to create a new folder here. We'll call it tests. And hit OK. So it's going to save some of the configuration information there. And then there's also a way to save out the source code, the generated JUnit source code. And so it's asking us for our output source directory. We could put that just directly into our main source directory or create another source directory for that. And then we also can follow this setup guide that will tell us how to set up our project in Flash Builder in order to be able to be used with FlexMonkey. So I need to specify my Flex SDK version, it's 4.1. And then if it's an Air project, I need to click this little checkbox, and it is. And then I need to add a library into my project. So in order to do that, there's this little icon here. I can just drag that into my libs folder in my project. I'll copy a Swig file there. Okay, so we're all good with that Swig file. And now we continue on here. I need to add some compiler arguments to my project. So let's go into the project properties here, and then into the Flex compiler. And let's just copy and paste these arguments down into that compiler arguments setting. So there we go. Got those there. Let's hit OK. And so now this application is ready to be tested with FlexMonkey. So now when we run this application, what we'll see, let's give this thing a run here. And let's hit OK back in here. So now what we should see here in FlexMonkey, let's arrange these windows so we have enough room to see everything, is that we should see that the monkey link connection status is connected. So that means that we can communicate between the application and FlexMonkey, and that's what we want. So that's a good thing. Okay, and now what we want to do is do a record. So I want to be able to record some interactions and then verify that the result of these interactions is what I expected. FlexMonkey uses the typical unit testing style of suites and test cases and then creating tests. And so what we can do is, by default, it gives us a default suite and case, and we can have multiple test suites and multiple test cases per suite and multiple tests per test case. But we're just going to use the default ones there. So what I can do now is do a record. So I'm going to record, and now it tells me I can interact with my application, and it's going to record what I'm doing. So over in the application, I can click over here, and I can click on the Get Data button, which is the first thing that we want to automate, is clicking that button. And what we see now in FlexMonkey is that it's tracked that I've clicked that button, Get Data. And now I can take this interaction and I can drag it into the test case that I want it to be in. And then I can continue interacting if I want to. But in this case, I want to do a verify. So what I want to actually verify is an expression. I want to verify that that something. Let's turn off record here, and we'll take a verify expression. We're going to add it underneath, so we actually add it on the bottom side of this get data command. And now it's going to ask me, what do I want to do this verify on, this expression on? And I need to come in, and we'll see it's going to start highlighting things in the application. What we really want to get to here is we want to verify the data grid. So I click on that data grid, and now it pulls up some values here. And it's going to ask me, what do we want to verify? Well, what I really want to verify here is that the columns dot length is equal to 7. So I want to verify that we got 7 columns back after making this call. And it automatically puts in some retry values here. For a retry delay, that's 500 milliseconds, and then how many times to retry. And the reason why this retry is important is because, of course, getting this data from the server is going to take a little bit of time. And so this is going to start attempting to verify right after it clicks that Get Data button. But that data is not going to be there for, let's say, 300, 500 milliseconds. And so we want it to try this multiple times before it fails or hopefully succeeds. Okay, so now that I've got my values in there, let's give this a try. And so in order to really test this from scratch right now, let me actually close down my application and rerun it so we can start totally from scratch here. And so let's rerun it now. And now when we rerun it, we're going to get first 0 columns. So our column length is 0. But let's, instead of clicking through the application to run our test, let's do it in FlexMonkey. So what I do is I just click on this play button, And now this brings up the test runner so that now I can run my tests, and then I can click play. And so now it's going to run through all my suites, test cases, and tests, and it's going to simulate clicking that get data button, and then verifying that my data grids columns links value was 7. And we'll see that the first time it tried, it actually was 0. So the first time it tried, it was 0 because it hadn't gotten that data back yet. But you can see it retried a couple times, and then the test actually succeeded. So that was all good. And then we can do a little bit more with this. We can continue to record some more interactions. Let's say we want to record now clicking the clear data button, and then I can go in and add this onto my test as well. And then we could do another verify too. There's different types of verifies that we can do. There's a really cool way with just the standard verify commands here where we can go in and let's go select the data grid here again. And then it will bring up a list of all the properties here on the data grid that we can use to verify. So we could go in and browse through all those different properties, find the property that we really want to verify against. We can also do bitmap verifies. So this is really powerful to be able to test really any part of our application and do all these different verifies. So I could, of course, set that to verify now that the data grid's data provider is now 0, now that I've cleared out the data. And that would allow me to run this test continually without having to restart my application. So anyways, that's a quick intro to the FlexMonkey automated testing tool. And if you want to find out more information about this, you can check out my blog or on John Rose's blog. That's GorillaJawn, JAWN.com.